Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors. Books with Bridgetti, only on 100 TV.
Self-expression and personal growth as he uncovers the magic within our everyday experiences. He offers insights to navigate life's challenges with joy, peace, and happiness. So join us as we delve into the synthesis of the unknown and known, the seen and unseen, and unravel the intriguing mind behind the pages. You're watching Books with Bridgetti, and today we're talking to Joseph Carrabis. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors. Books with Bridgetti, only on 100 TV.
Can everybody see that? Coinbase
Hey, Christoph Trapp. Thanks for having me on your live show. It was really my pleasure. Your production is just fantastic. Unbelievable how you guys are pulling that off. So organized with segments and transitions and all those different things. Right in line with what I'm talking about in my new book, Going Live streaming your podcast to reach more people. Hopefully people tune in for our conversations. Definitely worth the on-demand version, in my opinion, if I may say so myself. You guys are awesome.
I think this might be, I've been on over 24 different podcasts and radio shows in the last couple of months, and this has to be one of the most sophisticated, what the kids that I used to teach call bomb.com shows and presentations that I've ever been on. It looks fantastic. Thank you.
I love your introduction. How professional. That sounds, I feel like I'm on a beautiful show here. Folks, welcome.
Available wherever great books are sold near you.
Oh my goodness, Ross, thank you so much.
Thanks. And, this is one of the most fun interviews that I've ever done. So thank you, Bridgetti.
Big pleasure. Ross, take care.
Thank you.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Books with Bridgetti. In his book, That Think You Do, Joseph Carrabis invites readers to explore the realms of expertise, self-expression, and personal growth as he uncovers the magic within everyday experiences. Our live stream today is made possible by StreamYard and BeLive Media, only on 100 TV. Now, if you've never met our amazing author today, here's a little bit about him. Joseph has told stories to anyone who would listen, starting in his childhood. So he's been telling stories for a really, really long time. He tells me that he wrote his very, very first story in grade school and started getting paid for his writing back in 1978. So my goodness, if you're a storyteller and you're trying to write and nobody's paid you, you need to talk to Joseph. Now, he's been everything in between, from a long-haul trucker to a chief research scientist. He's also held patents covering mathematics, anthropology, neuroscience, linguistics based on technology he created in his basement. And from what he created, and from that he created an international company. I'm definitely out of my league today with this interview, but I'm looking forward to talking to Joseph. He tells me that he retired from corporate life and now spends his time writing fiction and nonfiction based on his experiences. And his work regularly appears in anthologies and in his own novels. So please give a warm welcome to my amazing guest today, Joseph Carrabis. is so great to have you join me today on Books with Bridgetti, and I cannot wait for us to dive into talking about all the amazing things that you have done over the years. And of course, your latest book just absolutely blows my mind, and I can't wait for us to dive into that. I love the cover, and I really want to know a bit more about the cover and how you came up with that um, as well. But just, to give audience a little bit of about, yourself, your bio mentions that you have sought immersion with Indigenous societies all over the world. How have those experiences influenced your writing? Have they influenced your writing?
Yes, thank you very much. And I gotta tell you, I love the theme music you have on the intro. That is just, I'm over here just, dive into it. Anyway, um, yeah, my experiences with different cultures globally very strongly influenced my writing. Some of it shows up in that Think You Do, definitely shows up in my short stories and novellas. In my science fiction uh, kind of science fiction novel, Man, the healing, the final amount of healing for the main character comes from talking to someone who used to be a Hibaro shaman from the northern Amazonas region of South America. And in one of the short stories, The Goat Men of Bagheera, and another one of my anthologies, that is based heavily on my experiences working with a culture from the high Andes. So, yeah, it shows up everywhere. And as a matter of fact, a forthcoming novel, which is entitled The Shaman, that is nothing but the indigenous cultures and studying with them and learning from them and experiencing life as they lived it. So it's very much a part of my current existence. I could not write what I do without it.
Could you give me maybe one example of how your experiences with Indigenous societies have inspired a particular story or novel?
Certainly. Let's take The Goat Men of Bagheera, which is in Tales Told Around Celestial Campfires. Um, the entire premise of that story is uh, an explorer on a deep space mission. They go to a planet which, as far as their instruments have told them, there's no intelligent life. So they go to the planet, and behold, there is, but it is differently intelligent than ours. It is more attuned to the planet's well-being than to the individual's well-being. And the the main character is what you might call a xenopologist, meaning he's an anthropologist for alien cultures. And it's his job. He's the only one on the ship with anything near the qualifications to have a first contact. So he tries to interact with these creatures who they're called the goatmen because they basically resemble the high mountain goats, the rams in the Rockies and northern Rockies in Canada. But they're humanoid. They have 2 legs, 2 arms, and they're amazingly well adapted for their life on what are called by the human explorers. There are these 2 massive rock mountain type things that are called Towers of God. And, their significance is not at all subtle. So he spends time with them. And one of the first things he realizes is they knew about the humans in the ship. And their greatest concern was, are you the only ones of your kind, or will more come here? which was very often a question that I would be asked and have to answer. So he realizes they have a totally different way of thinking, and they're trying very hard to understand Banks and his crew, while Banks is trying to understand them. He basically does not want them to be exploited. He realizes the humans who want to come to this planet and get the ores, get the minerals, basically harvest it, will exploit them. So it's that clash of cultures, and as the story progresses, Banks becomes more and more one of them. He basically goes, as we used to say, he's going native, he's going abo, meaning original, until finally something happens back on Earth. They abandon him because he won't leave the Goatmen. The backstory to all this is he came on this mission because he and his wife are estranged. He realizes he will not be able to see his son anymore. And the linking thread, if I'm not boring you yet, the linking thread are the bison. These are trees which are huge ironwood trees like sequoias, except that as he goes more and studies with the Goatmen, he realizes these trees are actually part of a creature which spans worlds, which spans universes. And they just, here they are as trees, here they are over there as something else. And they're actually the ones who are taking care of the Goatmen. They are, for lack of a better term, the Goatmen's deities. And that's an example of how it influences my work. People who read that tell me it's amazing. As a matter of fact, I remember one editor that someone came into her office as she was reading The Goatmen, and she actually yelled at them, "Don't bother me, I'm reading this." She was that excited by what she was reading that, don't go away, I don't want to be interrupted. Which, to me, that's a pretty high compliment.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just amazing. So
Thank you.
switching over to your book, the one that we've got on screen there to show people that think you do, you touch on different aspects of life, such as thinking like an expert, overcoming fears. What motivated you to want to explore these topics?
Excellent question. Back in that company that you mentioned that my wife and I started, Susan and I started, and I had these patents which covered neuroscience, linguistics, sociology, and blah, blah, blah. The topics in the book actually came out of research into those fields. I was at one point in time, I'm not going to say world known, but I was recognized in those areas. One person actually said that I'm a world-renowned neuroscientist. I cracked up. I said, "You have no idea what a world-renowned neuroscientist is. I'm like the low level. I'm a bottom feeder." But I was well known enough that a company in California said, "Would you be interested in running a blog for us?" Sure. So from 2008 to 2016, I wrote a weekly blog based on my research. I was really just sharing. This is something that I discovered in my research, and guess what? It has a very practical application. You don't need to be brilliant in these fields. You don't need to have different degrees in these fields. Here's a way to take this information and make your life better. And the blog got tremendous activity. I was very, very flattered, because to me this was all just basic stuff. This was not like, oh my God, look at the sliced bread in the wheel there. This was more like, wow, that's really fascinating. That's kind of interesting. Let's write about that. So I'm with a new publishing house, and the editor was going through my portfolio, and she said, "Wow, this is really amazing stuff. Let's write a book about this." I went, "Sure, let's do that." So she gathered up all the blog posts, and about a third of them are in this book. Probably less than a third, actually. She put them all together, and she had me proof them, and she said, "Let's get that done." There you go. It was the first book publishing house.
That's absolutely amazing. Oh my goodness. Could you elaborate a little bit on the concept of the actor within versus the inner critic, and how that could, understanding that could benefit
Yes.
readers?
One thing that a lot of people seem to have is they will do something, they don't do it as well as they would like. Somebody says something to them they don't appreciate, whatever. And they have a little voice inside them which chastises them, almost punishes them. Don't do that. I told you that, don't do that again. People are watching you, whatever. And that's what we call the inner critic. There's actually a term for that in psychodynamic psychotherapeutics called the inner critic. And it's that voice, or that feeling, that emotion you get when something didn't turn out like you wanted, something didn't turn out as well as you planned, somebody laughed at you, somebody made fun of you, it was not a positive outcome. So especially, let's say you grow up in a family which is not as loving and gracious and kind and forgiving as it could be. So you hear a lot of these negative messages, and these negative messages continue through adulthood. Maybe the relationships you've been in have not been the best. Maybe the work situation you've been in is not the best. So you hear this inner critic constantly putting you down, telling you, don't try that, don't attempt that, don't do that. Well, the other side, literally the other side of that, is what's called the actor within. And the actor within is the voice who goes, yeah, come on, let's go. What the heck? Let's go for it. What? And the actor within is the one who encourages. A lot of people, too many people in my opinion, listen more to the critic than the actor. So here are some easy ways to start listening more to the actor rather than the critic, to pay attention to the progressive, to the desirable, to the invigorating parts of yourself, rather than listening to the blemishing, to the degrading parts of yourself, because we have both of them in there. It doesn't matter really who you are, what your background or training is, you'll have those two voices in you. It's part of how we're designed. Now, the great thing is, or the interesting thing is, the critic was actually, it's actually a part of our brain that has grown out of our evolutionary need to make sure we don't get in danger. When we were, walking across the pampas, that tall grass just moved and there's no wind. There's a lion or a tiger or something in there. Don't go over there. We heard a very, very loud noise. That's a big animal. Get away from here. So that inner critic is actually the modern evolutionary part of our brain, which kept us alive throughout our evolutionary history. And that's an important piece that people need to know. So recognize that piece is designed to keep you safe and alive. The other part, the actor, that actor is the one that allowed Newton to figure out how gravity worked, that allowed Einstein to figure out how relativity worked, that allowed people to come up with penicillin. Just the amazing thing, the wheel, was because someone said, I can do this better. And they didn't listen to the critic, they listened to the actor. So you want that actor, but you want to now say to it, thank you. Don't try to put it down. Don't try to get rid of it because it's part of your wiring. Instead, thank it for being there and say, I appreciate it. I got this. Because all it wants to do is protect you and take care of you. So if you let it know, I got this. I can take care of this. And you know what? You can rest now. And I'm gonna tell you what, should I need you, I know exactly where you are, and I'm gonna come get you. And it's amazing when I share that with people, and that's one of the things I share in the book. It's amazing to me that people will come back to me and say, I did what you told me for like a week, and now I hardly ever hear about the critic, and I'm getting out there and I'm doing stuff. Like, good for you. Good. I've started playing the guitar. I never played the guitar before. I always wanted to play the guitar. Good. Good. That's what you need to do. Good for you.
It's amazing. Is amazing, Joseph. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to take a really quick break, and I've got a question I think a lot of people struggle with. So we'll be back in just a bit. Don't go away. You are watching Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors, only on 100 TV. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm talking to Joseph Carrabis about his book, That Think You Do. Now, a lot of people struggle with being heard. And your book promises to offer insights on being heard effectively. So what advice have you got for someone who struggles to be heard? Is the problem with them? What is the real thing behind people struggling to be heard?
There's an actual chapter about that in the book. Want to be heard? See a musician. And the whole premise is people sometimes want someone to listen, to pay attention. They don't want them to respond so much as just one individual needs to get the energy out of their system. It could be emotional energy, could be psychological energy, could be spiritual energy, could be physical energy. So an amazing study at Northwestern University here in the States have discovered that if you really want to be heard, have someone actually not respond, but pay attention and show that they're paying attention, talk to a musician. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's been playing music for 35 years as a professional on stage. You don't need to go see Sting or Andrea Bocelli. You don't need to do that. But you need to have someone who knows a little bit about music, even if they're just a person who hacks at the piano in their own home for fun. Because people who know music, who studied music, their brain is wired to pay attention to differences in sound. And that differences in sound show up in how you tell somebody something. For example, right now, I'm having fun because this is a wonderful show and you're a wonderful hostess. So I'm having a good time. And my voice shows it. You can hear the happiness in I hope you can hear the happiness and the joy in my voice. But now I'm going to remember something that's not quite happy and helpful that's going on. And my voice drops. And I talk with a down sound at the end of each sentence, at the end of each point. So when I want to make a point now, let's say I'm talking about something painful, and I want specific points to be understood. When I want that point to be understood, my voice goes down. And then this happened, and then this happened. As opposed to, even if you do this with a child, listen to how a child tells you about the greatest thing they did in school or in the playground or with their friends. And then I caught a ball. And then I ran with the ball. And then I had a good time with the ball. And then I tossed the ball to Jim. So their voice is always going up. Excuse me. And musicians are finally attuned to that, to the point where they can actually hear which words you fluctuate up and down on. So they know that, okay, that was an emotional word and their voice went down, then their voice went back up. So this is hurting them. This is hurting that person who's talking with me. That was an emotional word and their voice went up. So this is a good thing for that person. They inside, they're very joyous about it. Or they're listening to you talk and you start talking about when you saw something. And depending how you talk about what you saw, they can tell that it was a painful sight, it was a joyous sight, you were confused by it. And when you stop talking, and this is another thing the musicians are very good at, they will listen and listen and listen. And when you're finished, and they know that you're finished, like the end of a piece of music, they will come in and offer their thoughts, or they will ask for elaboration. And as an interesting key point to this, some of the best psychotherapists and psychologists, etc., that I've worked with and that I've trained and I've been trained by, in my opinion, the best have some kind of music in their background. It could be something as simple as the family used to get together and sing with a favorite song on the radio. There was one guy whose father was a tenor in the church choir, and he would always sing in the house, and he would sing to his wife and sing to his kids, not just, how was your day? How was your day? I hope it was joyful. And he just, God, the things he could hear in a person's voice, it was so amazing. So that is the thing about, if you want to be heard, go find a musician and talk with them. Make sure they're willing to be talked with. They might be a little, busy, but if they are willing to be talked with, there you go.
Oh my goodness. So I'm almost feeling like you were reading my mind a little bit, because my next question to you is like, I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, is this man reading my mind? Because my next question to you is, as a musician, how has your musical background influenced your writing and your perspectives on life?
Definitely influenced my perspectives on life. And I'm not going to say I'm a musician. I've been fortunate enough to study with some world-class musicians. I was actually invited to play with some world-class musicians. And I think that was because we had all had a little bit too much scotch that evening. But anyway, it has definitely affected or influenced my knowledge of music, because for one thing, and this amazes my friends and Susan, I will remember the first time I heard a piece of music and what I was doing and who I was with. And very often I'll remember in detail every instance of a piece of music. So that's how it's influenced my life, because I will associate sound to events rather than what I saw to events. And if I have to remember someone from a long time ago in my life, the first thing I do is I remember how they spoke, their voice. I remember how they sounded. And literally, when I remember the sound of their voice, their face comes in front of me. I see their face. How it's influenced my work, my writing. In in some of my things, music plays a very active role. I will use music which is culturally recognized to provide a backdrop, to provide a soundscape for the reader to know what kind of emotions are here in this scene or in this setting. But in a much more distinct way, and I get a lot of readers commenting about this, especially in my fiction, I write to a rhythm. I hear the beats of the sentences as I'm writing them. And I use alliteration and I use syncopation and assonance to mark how I want things to be read. And I was so flattered one day. Someone was reading Empty Sky, which just got released, and they were reading it, and they suddenly looked up at me and they said, "You wrote this to a rhythm," because they had a musical background, and they said, "Yeah, oh yeah, yeah," and I'm, "Yes, I did it, yeah." So that was very, very rewarding to me, and I think whatever someone has as a building building point of their life is going to show up in their writing. I have some people would say I have a scientific background that shows up in my writing, the music background, the language background. Um, Someone asked me if I was going to include a lot of cooking in one of my books because I love to cook. And I went, wow, that's a great idea. Another book. There it is. Okay, we're done. Yep.
Wow. So I'm going to switch gears a bit, and we're going to take another quick break because I want to almost pause because I think this is quite an important question as well. We live in a world that's filled with deception. Very few people are truly honest about what they want, or people we're filled with. Our lives are surrounded by people who deceive us, who
Mm-hmm.
their entire being is about deception. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back to my next question for you.
Very good.
Welcome back. We're talking to Joseph Carrabis on Books with Bridgetti. Now, Joseph, in your book, you talk about the value of protecting yourself from people who are untruthful. Can you give us some practical strategies or tips that we can use to identify and protect ourselves from people who are less than truthful or just downright deceptive?
Um, the best defense, if you will, is to start off being truthful with yourself. A lot of times, people in the modern world, as you stated earlier, are deceptive. And it's been my experience working with people that they know something is off, but for whatever reasons, the situation, their background, their experience, they don't follow up. They don't literally say, I'm a little confused by something. You don't have to say, you're lying to me. I don't believe you. But what you do have to say is, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. I'm a little unsure of what you mean by that. And that's being honest with yourself. Instead of you're listening to someone speak and, wow, what was that about? And not asking the follow up question. That's a confusing thing. That's confusing to the person who's listening, who's hearing the lie, who's being deceived. A lot of time promises are made. And you can tell by the way someone makes a promise. And this, someone will say, well, this is body language. Well, I don't know. It's based more on how people, again, how the brain is designed to make the body function. So there are two very distinct ways when someone is intentionally deceiving you. Number one, they will look directly at you and be very blank faced. Okay, so yeah, this is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to do it. And there's no emotion whatsoever. If there's some kind of emotion, That's a totally different thing, because then you can tell they either like what's going to happen or they don't like it. But the person who is completely indifferent to it, they don't really care. They don't have anything invested in the outcome. They can be lying to you. I'm not saying that it's always 100%, but that's when you want to ask the follow-up. The other thing that can happen is they want you to look at something else. Okay. So it could be a book, it could be their phone, it could be whatever. Let me show you this. And instead of looking at you to see your reaction to what they're showing you, they will show you that they will get your attention. Here, look at this. Look at what's right here. See this right here? This is what we need to be doing. Okay. But now they're going to look at this. They want you to follow their eyes to this rather than what they're saying. And that can be a very scary thing, because they have more invested in you paying attention to that than to them. Okay. If I'm communicating something to you which is of importance, I need to know you are recognizing this is important to me. Okay. You may glance at that. I may glance at that, but it's going to be more like, did you see this? What do you think about it? And I'm going back and forth because I want them to accept and agree with the information I'm giving them. Or even if they don't accept it, I want them to recognize this is important. Okay. So the two things, I will talk with you, but I just no emotion whatsoever, as opposed to, I think this is going to be a really good thing. Or this is something we have to do. It's unfortunate, some kind of signal. Or they stare at the thing they want you to see and never look at you because they don't want you to recognize they're deceiving you. And the book, as you mentioned, the book has a chapter about this, and it all begins with recognizing in yourself that flame, I will call it, the flame of truth that we all have inside of us that tells us, and this goes back to the critic and the actor, actually, the flame of truth, which says, this is a good thing, I will accept this, I will do this, versus, I'm not, no, wrong. Pay attention. The minute you get, I don't care how strong it is, if you are in doubt, voice the doubt. Do not act until you are truthfully, honestly believing it's in your interest. And that's how defending yourself, that's how to, protect yourself from liars and deceivers. Very simple.
Very interesting. So you leave it up to the reader to discern what is true for them. How then would you encourage readers to explore and question their own beliefs and experiences?
Well, we are the sum of our lives. And the great thing about how we respond to anything is we respond in the moment with a lifetime of experience. We never respond in the moment with one thing that happened when I was 22 years old. I'm going to bring that forward. No, we respond with everything that's happened in our life, from our earliest memories in childhood to 2 moments ago. So when we need to examine ourselves, and that's a lot of what this book is really about, understanding how to live our lives better, how to make ourselves better, by taking a moment. How come I did that? Why did I do that? What was that from? Now, a lot of times when we do that, we're going to dig up a lot of interesting stuff from our past. Why did I not like going in the woods? Oh, just because I don't like trees. I don't like all those insects. I don't like this. I don't like that. Well, okay, that's great. I accept that. And let's explore back. Let's go back. When did you begin having that? Oh, my sister got stung by a bee and she came running out of the woods. Great. There you go. Make sure you don't go near a beehive. You've got it nailed. You're done in one. But unless we are willing as individuals to look back on our lives, to explore what our experiences have been and how they've affected us and how we want to be moving forward. That's a key thing. You can either stay the way you are, you're doing it fine right now, so let's stay the way you are. But if there's something in your life you want to change, the first thing you need to do is become aware you want to change it. A lot of times people will say, I don't know why I do that. I've done that again. I always keep on making that mistake. Well, that's awareness. That's simple awareness. What you want is more fulfilled awareness. You want to be able to say, and I'm not happy doing that, so I need to change that. And then what do I want to change it to? How do I want to behave in the future? And moment by moment, you work towards it. You don't sit there and go, I'm going to do this differently. Urgh. No, you just up. Okay, good. All right. Okay, I did. That's it. I do that. Now I'm going to go a little bit better. I'm going to do a little bit better this time. Okay, good. Be gracious and kind with yourself, because if you're not gracious and kind and loving to yourself, no one else is going to be.
That's so true, and really good advice for us and for readers out there. So you mentioned the synthesis between the known and the unknown, the seen and the unseen, and also the mental and the physical in your book. Could you expand a little bit on how our understanding of this could contribute to our sense of well-being or happiness or joy?
One thing that I really encourage people to do is find something that they enjoy doing and pursue it. Learn more about it. It's one of the ways we can think like an expert without having to go to college for 40 years or be a professor or whatever. Find something you like and do some reading about it. Go to a lecture on it. Maybe there's an adult ed course you can take on it. Maybe there's a group that meets in your area that does this type of thing. Going back to the musician type of thing, maybe you've always enjoyed jazz. You're not a good clarinet player, but you've always enjoyed jazz. See if there's a local group that takes anybody with any kind of level of skill, and sure, just sit in with us and jam with us. Great. So expand yourself that way. There's the known and the unknown. And I feel, my personal opinion is, we need to go a little bit more into the unknown, not to the point where we're nervous and, oh my God, this isn't terrible. What the heck did I do? But just on the other edge of that line where it's easy for us to come back if we need to, but at the same time, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then the next thing you know is this part creeps up. Okay, now it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And this part creeps up again. And we expand ourselves by expanding our understanding of the world around us. Not just one thing. One of my teachers used to say to me, if you want to understand anything, you have to understand everything. And one of a great line, a great line is, if you really want to make an apple pie from scratch, you have to first create the universe.
That's statement that I never considered myself. From from people that have read the book so far, what's been your most interesting feedback from readers?
I think the most interesting feedback was people asking me if I would do lectures about it, talk about it, train people in the different aspects. Yep, sure, happy to do so. Let me know. But the overriding thing that I get from the majority of people is it really helped them in their lives. a woman based here in the U.S., out in the western part of the country. She wrote me and she said, "I got your book, and it was on my bookshelf, and I didn't get to it. And for some reason, I don't know why, I picked it up. I started reading it, and I had just lost my job, and my family had just kind of gone their separate ways, and I was really depressed. And I read your book, especially the 2 chapters on depression busters, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing." And when I hear from people that the book has helped them change their lives, help them get a better focus on their lives, help them understand their behaviors, help them become the kind of people they want to be, that to me is, that sends me to nirvana. I think I think when any author hears that their book has made a difference in someone's life, wow, yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. I can definitely resonate with that. We're going to take another quick break and we'll be back in a second. Thanks for joining us. You're watching Books with Bridgetti. You are watching Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors, only on 100 TV. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. I'm talking to Joseph Carrabis. Joseph, so how do you balance providing insight and perspective to readers while still encouraging them to form their own opinions or interpretations?
Well, one of the things that I hopefully do, I attempt to do, and my readers can tell me if I do it well or not, is provide the information. Here's the baseline information. Here's how I made use of the information for myself. Because almost every chapter in this book, it starts or ends with some anecdote about, this is how I made use of this in my own life. And then we go into, are you having any of these types of things happening in your life? So here's the baseline information. Here's how it helped me. Here are the things that can help. You got to decide. If you think this information would help you, go for it. If you don't think it would help you, find something else that will. But a lot of what I do is merely get people to be aware of a challenge they're having. And and it's not, another thing is, it's not quote unquote them. They're not bad. They're not weak. They're not diseased. They're not troubled. They're not, inferior. No, this is part of how we were designed. This is how we are created to act. And because it is, we can control it. Believe it or not, those depressions you get, provided they're not like a biological, a chemical imbalance in the body, if this is something which is emotional, psychological, spiritual, there are ways that you can teach yourself to deal with it, to overcome it, to feel better. Do you feel like people have been deceiving you? There are ways for you to become aware. You can teach yourself. You can train yourself. There you go. There are ways you want to be heard. Yes. Do you want to change your life? Are you, bothered by the amount of change that's in your life? Well, life is all about changes. I've been on the planet close to 70 years. And if somebody had told me when I was a kid that at some point in my life, I'd be able to talk to anybody on the planet with this thing I held in my hand. Yeah, I watched Star Trek too when I was a kid. Yeah. Okay. So, beam me up, Scotty. So it's really, for me, it's really, here's the base information which you can make use of. Here's how I made use of it. Here's things that it will affect. If you want to change them, go for it. And probably the best example of that is a chapter in the book called The Liz Effect, which is about my experiences with a young lady I dated many, many years ago. And recognizing what an unhealthy relationship it was. It was a painful relationship, and I managed to get out of it. And the worst part of it for me was running into her years later and realizing she had not changed. She was still that kind of person who caused damage, who wounded people intentionally because she had life issues of her own, which she never chose to deal with. So it's that kind of stuff. Being aware, here's the facts, here's how I did it, here's things that can help, go for it.
That's incredible. I do want to ask you if you'd mind reading us a section out of the book that you think people would find interesting. But before we do, you do talk about a magic wand in almost every one of the chapters. Could you give us an example of one of these sort of magic wand moments and its impact on the reader's perspective?
Well, to me, the magic wand is one of those aha moments that everyone has. But these types of aha moments are the ahas which in that instant change how you view your life, change your perspective on things, allow you to recognize this and that aha moment, that magic wand, ring, and now we're over here. We are Harry Potter, who's finally learned how to use that wand perfectly, and zip, and now we're all going to fly, or we're all going to do something miraculous. My magic wand needs some more batteries, but I'm working on it. So if it's an aha moment, which is an altering moment, that's the magic wand. There is magic in our lives. We don't pay attention to it. We are taught through college, through school, through Western civilization. Now all civilizations on the planet, I think, are being taught to no longer respect and honor the little bits of magic and the large bits of magic that are in our lives. And the magic is always within us. And I'm not trying to be flaky and spiritual or anything like that. Merely the fact that when we lose our ability to have wonder, we've really lost everything. When I see a beautiful sunset, no matter where I am on the globe, when I see a beautiful sunset, it doesn't matter that I've seen sunsets all my life. This one is beautiful. This one. And the thing is, everyone has their cameras and their phones, and they take pictures and they share it. The new can only be experienced once by anybody. And in my opinion, if I take a picture of something which is amazing and I show it to you, I have denied you the ability to experience the real thing. And instead, I've had you experience, not the real thing. It's kind of like flying over Greenland, and I'm gonna ruin new experiences for some of your viewers. Flying over Greenland in the dark of night, pitch black night, no moon, only the stars. The snow glows. The snow glows and it gives off a bluish light. And I still get a chill remembering that. And that's the thing. That's the aha moment. That is the wow. Oh my God. Whoa. And one of the things I shared with people is you've been with someone. Susan and I have been together now better than 40 years. And I can still look at her and go, yeah, That is my love of my life right there. That is my sweetie. Come over here and cuddle with me, honey. You know, because there may be snow on the rooftop, doesn't mean there's not fire in the furnace. Okay, folks? So be aware of that magic moment. Appreciate them. Appreciate them that they are yours. Your magic moment may not be somebody else's magic moment.
Correct.
And find the person who will appreciate your magic moment, even if they don't share it, even if to them it's nothing special, but they will find joy in your joy. Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Joseph, before we go, can you read us a quick excerpt out of your book if you don't mind?
No, don't mind at all. This is actually the first chapter in the book. Change, which is constant, and managing the work-life balance. Susan, wife, partner, all things known and unknown, and I are coming on our 25th wedding anniversary. And I make a note in the book, we've actually celebrated much more than that. We've been together 44 years. I wrote our wedding vows. I cannot promise you fidelity, sanity, health, hope, love, comfort, or joy. All I can promise is that I will change. Not all of my changes will be good. I ask God's help that not all will be bad. I ask you today to be with me in my changes, to tell me when I am foolish, to heal me when I am sick, to love me when I forget to love, to give me hope when I have none to give me comfort when I am cold and alone, to give me joy when all I know is sadness. Stand with me the rest of my days. I have asked you to do this. I ask you again here before our friends and families. It is said before others, but the words are for you. I love you. So nobody in the audience knew what my vows would be. They knew I wrote them, and everyone thought it's going to be something funny because Joseph always laughing. And I have lost count of the number of people who said, can you send me those vows? Can you give me a copy of those? I want those for my wedding vows. It was our mutual, at the beginning of our relationship, our mutual recognition, we're going to change. We're not going to be the people we are now in 1 week. You know, I'm going to discover you throw your socks on the floor? What? You know, all these incredible things, you know. How come you don't wash the dishes when you're done? You just leave them in the sink. You know, it's going to be one of those things. And for people who are in relationships, just so you'll know, Susan and I have had our difficulties. We've had our challenges. And people say to us, how can your relationship be as strong as it is? Well, because we've had all these challenges and we made a commitment to each other. We're going to work it out. Part of working it out may be recognizing we can't be together anymore. We have to separate for both of ourselves to be healthy. But also part of working it out is, okay, I know why we're having this challenge. Let's fix it. Fix ourselves, make ourselves better for each other, for ourselves and for each other. And when you recognize that everything changes and that you're going to change, then people can't say, you're not the person I married. Well, yeah, darn right I'm not. My God, I hope not.
Joseph, thank you so much.
Now.
That's an amazing notice to end our show on. Thank you so much. This was so much fun. Thank you to our amazing audience. We'll see you next time on another episode of Books with Bridgetti. Thank you for joining us on Books with Bridgetti. Join us next time for industry experts and award-winning authors only on 100 TV.
All about it.